Here's why you shouldn't make a co-op game for a game jam. Me and my friend realized the GMTK game jam was coming up, and we decided to participate. Although we'd never actually done a game jam before, we were determined to make our game and finish it. And with GMTK, you only get 48 hours. Now, the day before the game jam started, one of our game devs had a mock-up of a small 2-player airship fighting game that we decided we would use and just try to mold it to whatever the theme ended up being. Not only did we want to just try our hand at making a co-op game, but we realized that if we could do it, we wouldn't have to deal with AI, and that would be a huge scope cut for us. And when you only have 48 hours, you need to cut all the scope that you can. Now that we had a proof of concept, we did what no other team dared to do. We went to bed. In the morning, we finally saw it. The theme was Roles Reversed. We hopped onto Discord as soon as we could, and we tried to brainstorm. Maybe we'd have sandbags that instead of dropping, start floating upwards, or maybe the balloons are really heavy and drag on the ground. Or we could go with the obvious joke and submit a game jam application and tell them to make their own game. We passed ideas around for a little while, and then we decided on something that might actually work. What if you and the other player swap balloons? It'd be an extremely direct reversal of the roles, and it would fit really nicely into the shell of the game that we already have. Finally, we had an idea for an actual game, a co-op fighting game between 2 balloon characters where you kill the other person and you take all their progress when you do. It was simple, concise, and fit the theme, and it was actually a lot of fun playtesting together, which was a really good sign to us. Finally, with an idea in mind, we got to work. I worked on art assets, creating models for the balloon characters, the backgrounds, and the levels, while Aiden worked on coding the game, making a health system, and making the movement feel good. The game idea was that both players start in a room and have an opposite doorway they're trying to get through. Once you get through your first door, you become the offensive balloon, and the other player becomes the defensive balloon. If they kill you in this level, it swaps onto their first room. And if you kill them on that first room, it swaps back to yours, and so on and so forth until someone finally clears all 3 levels. So by the end of our first day, we had our 3D art assets, an actual idea, a movement system, and about half of our health system built, leaving a lot of work still cut out for us for the next day. We still needed to finish building our levels, adding a win screen, and actually adding death and even our 2-player inputs. Those were all things we did not have going into our second day. But luckily, I came up with one thing that morning: our music. With the bangin' soundtrack and a pocket full of dreams, we marched into Saturday knowing we had to build the entire game still. And when I say we, I do mean Aiden, because when I'm doing visual and audio assets and working on levels, he's the one actually coding the entire game. For the next few hours, I worked on sound effects and some particle effects and lighting, while Aiden tried to jerry-rig together being able to use the WASD and arrow keys and being able to use controllers for the most accessibility possible. What we hadn't considered though in terms of accessibility was that our game, being co-op, meant you needed a friend in person to play it with, and that is not accessible at all. A discovery we would only make after we finished our game. After checking the GMTK Discord for some inspirational quotes, we added a cool blend shape so that the balloons would actually inflate and deflate, and I had the horrible idea of adding monkeys to do a Balloons Tower Defense ripoff and get some clickbait going, so we did that too. Now, I'd just like to preface that the game is literally in no way related to the gameplay of Balloons Tower Defense, but I thought it was kind of a fun role reversal that the monkeys would be fighting in the balloons instead of fighting the balloons, and they just kind of looked cute in the baskets, and when the balloons pop, they fall to their deaths, and it looks really funny, so we kept it for now. After spending the entire day Saturday on the game itself, we finally finished it, and it was time to move on to packaging and publishing the game, which typically takes at least 48 hours on its own, so we had our work cut out for us still. For those that haven't had the pleasure of packaging and publishing a game, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and it will be the slowest troubleshooting nonsense of your life. And it's always really stupid simple problems. We finally packaged and published our game at like 212 megabytes, which was the biggest game GMTK has ever seen in its life. We put together some Flash Game-esque 2010 promo art on the website, and we made our game. We submitted it at around 4 a.m. or something on Saturday, and we were done. We technically published 7 hours before the deadline, which was actually delayed an hour due to some technical stuff, so we did a pretty good job. I think that cancels out with the fact that our arrow keys bug out after a few minutes and it becomes completely unplayable. So I think we did a pretty good job. I think it all evens out. And yeah, we made our game, and we actually did finish a full game in 2 days, and I'm pretty proud of that. Now you're probably wondering, like, okay, so why should I not make a co-op game? You didn't even talk about that. That was clickbait. Well, the co-op part is an issue because it's not accessible. With game jams, you rely on people to be able to play your game so that they can give you a rating, and you can be rated based on how good your game was, and it increases your visibility, and more people will be encouraged to play it and rate it, and so on and so forth, and you'll get more exposure. Just how it works. But with the co-op game, we had about half as many ratings as we did downloads, which sort of implies that people weren't able to play or actually access the game how they were supposed to, so they did not leave a rating at all. And that is why I say you should not make a co-op game for a game jam. But we finished our game in 48 hours, first ever game jam. We had a lot of fun. Hope you guys learned something or laughed or did something, or I don't know, maybe you're still watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. See you next time.